First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk. Guys, a little under the weather right now, so forgive me. Plus, it's cold. Doing these videos in the car. Oof. It's like 20-something degrees out right now. But got to get that content out there. And today we're going to talk about the pinch of being in middle management. Got an interesting email the other day that simply asked, hey Gangi, is management always at fault when good staff leave? And that's a great question. But that made me think, oh, this person may be in middle management. This person may be feeling the pressure from both sides, front line and that upper echelon. So this video is going to kind of give you that perspective of being in middle management. You know, understanding how to keep that balance and how difficult it is. And then maybe along the way we'll answer that question. You know, is management always responsible? You know, we have good staff leaving all the time, and what's management's fault? What's not? But again, it all goes back to that pinch that middle management is in, that delicate dance. When we come back from our sponsors, we're going to explore that a little bit. As always, guys, the show Tier Talks for you brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. When we're a sponsor, when we come back, let's talk about that pinch. The pinch that you feel when you are in middle management. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Thank you guys for listening to our sponsor. You know, the question that was asked at the beginning in that email was, is management always at fault when good staff leave? Well, let's get that answer out there. The answer is no, right? And if that no is fuzzy to you right now, then as we discuss the pinch of middle management, it's going to clarify itself. Trust me. You'll see it clearly. But it is a great question. It's a very insightful question because I believe that the person that asked that in that email, the reason why they asked that is because they care about their front line. And I would like to say, just for the fact that you asked that question, that it's definitely not you. Because bad management wouldn't even ask that question. They just wouldn't care enough to ask that question. And it's sad to see that good management or good leaders, they get caught up in that whirlwind of bad leaders, bad management. And it's so easy, that generalized animosity, where you get that one bad manager and you wind up defining all managers on that level, and it's frustrating and very divisive. But with that said, because this video is really focusing on good leadership, and I think it's through good leadership that I can really present a great perspective of what it feels like to be in middle management, because it's good leadership that's going to show you the conflict that middle management faces, that good leadership in middle management. And I would like to start off with a story about the beginning of my career as an officer. And I don't share a lot of personal stories on here, but I think I need to tell this story because I think it kind of paints a picture of how naive we could be at the beginning of our career. But again, an effort to build some clarity. So, at the beginning of my career, when I was an officer, I used to look at my sergeant like they were the end all. Like they could solve everything, like they had the power to solve everything. And that's because really my only communication as a frontline professional was really with my frontline supervisor. So they became that person that communicated things from above And I would like to think that they were also communicating things from me to above, or from our troops, if you will, the front line. And I used to see corrections in such a simplistic format. I mean, very simple. Because again, all I understood was my perspective, my role, my job function. All I understood was what I wanted. And the changes that I thought were so easily implemented were really based on what I felt was good at the time. But technically, they were really selfish needs, because I didn't take into account the other departments. I didn't take into account the bigger mission, because I didn't know it. It took me growing up in this profession. It took me moving up in this profession. Guys, best piece of advice you could ever get is allow yourself to grow every day, learn. Open yourself up to the other perspectives that are in this profession. But anyway, so here I am, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, thinking that when I move up the chain, I'm going to change the world, and when I'm a sergeant, I'm going to implement this, and this. And then I become a sergeant. And then reality kicks in. Oh, you mean sergeants have bosses too? You mean I have people to answer to? Now, mind you, this is my experience, but when I say sergeant, I'm talking about frontline supervisor. So this could really be applied to any department. It's just I'm sharing a story here, and the title at that time for me was a sergeant. So now I'm thinking like, wow, I really can't implement these changes. But it started to make sense why I couldn't. It did. But there were still the needs of the front line. So if we had to implement something, the needs of the front line, I would try to get addressed. And sometimes, man, they would get so frustrated with me because nothing happened. So here we got this change, and you give me this concern, but we still have to do the change. I tried, but unfortunately, the change has to happen. So, and frontline staff will get mad. But see, the problem was they were getting mad at an outcome. What they failed to do was appreciate the effort. The fact that they told me a concern, and I still forwarded that concern up, because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what good management, good leadership does. And that's where the complicated role comes into play, because we're trying to balance both sides. And it's funny, because bad managers, they'll just implement things blindly, so they don't have to deal with this conflict. It's good managers that deal with that conflict. It's good managers that probably send out those emails that wonder if it's them at fault, because they can't meet the needs of both parties. And when I'm talking about balancing this line, do you know that middle management has to speak like 3 languages? Has to be able to translate 3 languages? Middle management. Because first, if you look at the top, you have the strategy side of things. We have to implement this. So they pass it down. And then it comes to us, middle management, the operations side of things. And then we still have to pass it down to the tactical side. So look at that, 3 different languages here. And then vice versa. After we bring this idea over to the front line is going to say, well, these are the concerns that we have before we implement it. And now you have to take that operationally and then translate that strategically. You know, you have to make sure that both extremes, the upper echelon and that front line, they kind of understand each other. And that's where you're there for. You're filtering, you're communicating it, but more importantly, you're translating it. And there has to be an understanding from both sides to take that perspective in. Remember that. You know, you have to have upper echelon that's willing to listen. And hopefully, before they come up with a strategy, they think about how that strategy could affect the people that work at the front line. And going back to the front line, I would like to think that front line understands the why that's needed to really understand why that strategy has to be implemented. You know, frontline has to allow that perspective in, because the problem is sometimes, especially in corrections, a lot of changes going on, and up top has to implement things to facilitate these changes. And here we're at trying, okay, this is what's got to be done. Let me translate that down to the tactical side. But change is scary for the front line. They get used to doing things in certain ways, and they wind up becoming very resistant, or some of them flee. And it gets very, very frustrating. And middle management is here kind of being pulled or pushed both ways, technically. It's really both. And they're trying to maintain that balance where they meet the needs of the front line but still accomplish the needs of the agency. But sometimes the agency, they just push things blindly down to that middle management, not realizing that middle management still has to facilitate that, still has to bring that down to the front line in an effort to try to get them to implement that in a manner where they want to do it, because that's where you're going to be the most productive. But sometimes you have that higher management that's never been in middle management before. So they just think that, hey, I could just give this order and this middle management's going to be able to get it done, and not understand how complicated it can be. They just want to see the magic happen. Well, there's work. There's work to create the magic. Because what I'm trying to do from the middle management level is to get them to want to do it, not force them. I want them to want to do it. Which means that when they give me a concern back, you have to be able to allow me to bring that concern back to you, and then we can somehow meet in the middle, create that balance. But I need both sides to be willing to participate in that. Sometimes you don't get that. Sometimes if upper echelon closes that door and that stops me from moving it up, I start to become frustrated. I start to become disenfranchised. And then I wind up, because I have to implement it, I wind up becoming a boss that they're not going to like. And I don't want to be that boss. I don't. So by you shutting the door, two things are going to wind up happening. If you shut the door on middle management from bringing up those concerns to the front line, one thing is I'm just not going to be liked by them, because I don't want to hear what they have to say because I can't do anything about it. I'm frustrated. Or I may start bad-mouthing management. Hey guys, we have to do it, but they ain't listening to me. And look at the employee morale. Where's the trust? Trust is gone. So again, having that door open, entertaining what I have to say, that's very important. That's very important for middle management, because it helps them facilitate the needs of the house. But I'm not leaving the front line out of this either. I'm not. The front line, sometimes they could be upset because they're not getting their needs met. But sometimes, like I was when I was a young officer, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, I may not see the bigger picture. I may not. So the needs that you're asking for maybe just cannot be done. But you have to allow that perspective in. You have to listen to what I'm trying to get across. If you're just going to keep on saying no before I can even tell you what that thought is, and you're not even giving me a chance to explain the why, well, that's on you now. That's on you. At least give me a chance, because that's the key in this profession. The key in this profession is to begin with the why. Get people to understand the reasoning, the belief behind what is being done, and then bringing us together on that belief. Because that's how we're going to build trust. We're going to share the same belief. And trust me, guys, trust in the workplace, that's phenomenal. But that starts with that relationship. And that relationship really is filtered through here, the middle management. But it's very important that you have that trust. And I really believe it's important that we all share that belief. Because trust me, guys, if we don't share in that same belief, we're not going to have a force that wants to work. Now, for me as middle management, I want to be able to empower my front line. I want to make them have a sense of responsibility. But more importantly, as I said, I want to make them want to work. And that only happens if they feel they can be involved in the work that's being done, if they can have a say. And that's where I'm going to go back up to upper management and say, hey, listen, this is what we got going on, but this is what they also thought we could do. Now, if you don't want to hear that, or if you don't give me a reason why they can't, then you stick me in the middle. And now I'm stuck. And now I go back and maybe give them some BS excuses that they're no longer going to buy. And then we go back to employee morale being done because they feel that they don't have a say. They feel that they don't have involvement. It's a key word here. Involvement. And you know what's sad is that people that usually want to travel up, yes, some may travel up for external incentives, which are wrong, and we can weed those out eventually because stress and corrections will get to you. And if you're just going for the reward, the extra pay, you won't survive in this profession that way. Because when you go into that middle managed positions, those frontline supervisory positions, you have to take responsibility. Responsibility of the team. You have to take accountability sometimes. And again, you have to be able to do this delicate dance, this delicate balance where you have to speak 3 languages and translate 3 languages. Strategic, operational, tactic. But the people that are willing to do that, the people that are saying, hey, I'm willing to take responsibility, I'm willing to make the effort, I'm willing to communicate to try to get this dance going, to get people that want to work, I'm willing to do that. Well, these are the people you want in these positions. These are the people that are driven by heart and willpower to get the job done. But we can easily disenfranchise them because there's only so much strength that they have to keep that balance. And if neither side works with them, I'm talking about front line just constantly being resistant and running and upper management not caring, just sending things down blindly and telling middle management, get it done, get it done, get it done. This person's going to get battered. Middle management's going to get bruised. And then you get this employee who wanted to be the best, who wanted to have an impact, who wanted to do something great, and they give up. They give up. And whose fault is that? It's either coming from the front line or it's either coming from the upper echelon because they closed off the chance to communicate. Here they are as middle management, like laid out like a bridge. Walk on me, let's get this done. Walk this way, let's get it done. Let's meet in the middle. I'll be the bridge to make it happen. That's a hell of a sacrifice. That's a hell of a sacrifice. But again, that's what good leaders do. That's what good management does. The last thing we want to do is have actions or behaviors that don't allow for good management to be good management. So again, that question you asked at the beginning, sounds like you're a good manager. Sounds like you're a good leader. But there are certain things that no matter how good you are, you can't stop from happening. It's going to happen. And then you're going to spend all this energy chasing after something that you cannot control. It's not yours to control. And while you're wasting all that energy trying to fix something that you cannot fix, there will be things in the career that you can fix, that you can have an impact on, but you're not going to have the energy to do it. So it's like pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you have people that see the profession in one way, and then reality kicks in and they see the profession in more of a negative way now, and they're kind of on the fence as whether they want to leave the job or not. And instead of taking responsibility because they made the choice to leave, they start blaming you. And that's cowardly. But they'll start blaming you for whatever reason it is, all because they just can't find happiness. They're their own cancer. And sometimes people like that, it's good to see them go, because eventually they'll take down the whole ship, so you might as well leave now before you take us all down. And I don't want to, there are going to be people that want to have an impact, and I don't want to leave you without feeling you can't, because you can. But sometimes it's not the impact that you may think it is, but it's still a great impact. And we touched on it before. You may not be able to create new change as middle management. May not be able to. because the strategy, the upper echelon, they're coming up with these strategies, and trust and believe they may have a higher perspective than you. They may see things differently, and whatever your vision is just may not fit in with their vision. And again, you still have people you have to answer to. But why that change is going on from the higher level, your impact could be on how that change is facilitated. You know, maybe when your management, the people that don't want to work because they are afraid of the change, they're resistant to the change, maybe you can get that dialogue, that translation that we talked about, from strategy to operations to tactical, and then from tactical to operations to strategy. Maybe because you're such a good translator and you understand the language so well, maybe that you can get them to want to work, and you could create a workforce where they're empowered, they feel respected, both sides are talking to each other, and that will increase employee morale, which will better the working environment. That's a great impact to have. That the working environment is great because of you, because you were able to be that bridge, and the sacrifice that you had to make, because I could see all the footprints on your back, all the footprints you allowed to happen just to make the place better. Middle management, man, that pinch, it hurts. And only so many people can survive in this position. But again, it's a position that it may have its ups and downs, but it may be the position that's the most rewarding. It could be the position that's the most rewarding. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. All right, guys, stay safe.